This meeting is being recorded.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining us for the Care Dynamics Operate Like a Recruiter Zoom meeting. I am Sean Thompson. I am the owner of Care Dynamics LLC, which is a staffing agency, among other things, based in Florida. And the purpose of this meeting tonight is so that we can put together as staffing agency owners the nuts and bolts of the recruiting side of the agency ownership business. Because I find that whole part of the business is very nuanced. And oftentimes it's a part of the business that a lot of agency owners either don't understand or try to shy away from. And in my experience, not very many people are able to run a successful recruiting business or staffing business without understanding what recruiting is and what it is not. So I would also like to introduce to you our special guest. Her name is Erica Bridley. She just happens to be my beautiful cousin, and she is a world-class, amazing recruiter and HR, human resources professional, certified human resources professional specifically. So she has some amazing information to share with everyone tonight that has already helped me in Care Dynamics. So I'm hoping that you guys can get some great takeaways tonight. I forgot that when I sent the email out, I did not put the recipe for the martinis in there. So I'll probably send that out later, but that was just something fun, just to say that this is an informal meeting. So if you want to have a cocktail, some popcorn, whatever you want to do to loosen up and enjoy the meeting, please do so. So welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. And thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening with little old me. So let's see. I'm just gonna go down, whether you guys have the agenda pulled up or not, it's okay. The main thing that I want to start with talking about, as opposed, can you guys still see me? Because I'm looking at my agenda screen. So I want to gauge whether or not you can still see me when I'm clicking on other stuff. Yes. Can you still? Okay, cool. All right, so again, thank you for coming. When it comes to trends in the recruiting industry, what I have been seeing in the past, I'll say 3 years, there is actually a transition going on from a lot of the COVID, pre-COVID and during COVID positions that were remote. I'm starting to see the trend of there being a decline in some of the work from home positions that were available, as well as a lot of places also doing hybrid models, meaning that they have people in office some of the time, and then the rest of the time they work from home. So that's not really relevant to healthcare staffing. When you're dealing with nurses, pharmacists, physicians, they are required to be on site. However, just be mindful of the fact that there are so many positions for clinical personnel that allows for work from home. So sometimes you might see that as prior authorization positions, and some of the clinical determinations type positions. So when it comes to your competition and the overall industry trends, just be mindful of the fact that you are going to have a lot of people come to you as on the candidate side and say, well, I want a work from home position, and some of those positions that they're looking for are on the decline as far as now. The next thing that I want to talk about is understanding the recruiting business model. I know we were talking during the pre-session, and I think Sherry brought it up to where the differences between contract staffing and direct hire staffing. Oftentimes, a lot of recruiting agency owners don't understand the differences in the two. There is direct placement, where we, as a staffing agency, we work to place a candidate with a client. and we get a percentage of their first year's salary as long as they stay for a specified period. That is called direct placement. When you're doing a direct placement, that individual is not working for you. They're going to be working for the company and thereby paid by the company, paid by your client. So you will receive a check from the client. And of course, the candidate will be being paid by the client. On the other end, there is the contract staffing model, where you have individuals, whether it be in healthcare, hospitality, tech, you're building teams of people that go to your client and perform specified tasks. They do specified work, but they do not work for they are not employed by the client. They're employed by you. Your agency is paying them. Your agency is responsible for their HR. Your agency is responsible for any problems that that individual may have on the job. So I would say that the contract staffing or the PRN staffing model is in a lot of ways a little more detailed and intricate. You want to have a good mix of the two in your business. So there's the direct placement, contract staffing. There's also contract to perm, which is they start off as a contract and then after say 90 days, they get converted to a direct hire with your client. And then there's hybrids. The contract to perm is more of a hybrid model. So one thing that you want to be thinking about in your business, besides what your individual niche is, what type of services, what is your business model? I personally feel that every agency owner should aim to have a good mix of both contract and direct hires. And Erica, if you have anything to add to that, I would be delighted.
Yeah, I noticed that everyone was kind of just on the healthcare end, and that is good. But a lot of money comes in with admin for contracts. There's more admin administrative positions that do contract work than anyone else. So a lot of companies add administration because they might have like a company needs somebody to come in and fill for some one of their employees that's pregnant or something like that. So they'll have an admin come in and do that job for 4 to 5 months or however long it's going to take for her to come back. So just to like keep that broad spec is like, I know I think some of you are just focused on the healthcare part, but I would also look into other things that are going to be very good in contracts as well. And admin is one of those things.
Good to know. And I just learned something new there, you guys. So Erica, can you speak on how would somebody implement that? Like, okay, if we're staffing as nurse staffing, for example, how would we integrate the admin roles into our business?
So you'd have to start going as far as finding the clients that need those admins, the same way you would do with healthcare. And you could have 2 separate sections, which is good because then you'll have your healthcare in one section and then you have your admins in another. And you can staff for both. But as I know from a recruiter, admins are the ones who keep the business open because those are the easiest to staff.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See, listen, I'm here to learn just like y'all. So I have my notepads out because this is information that when I got started, I just wanted to staff pharmacists. MTM on the Go was pharmacist staff, and it was me staffing myself. And I thought I could build a whole business just staffing nothing but pharmacists, particularly to the independent pharmacy and long-term care niche. And that just didn't go well. That just did not, there was not enough business rolling in to keep that rolling. So one thing I want us to keep in mind tonight, that the purpose is not even just starting your business. I want you to be operational, and I want you to do what's called scaling, which is take whatever efforts that you already have and be able to leverage other people to grow your business into something that transcends you. Oftentimes we start businesses and we think of them along the lines of being lifestyle businesses. How can this business have revenues to support the lifestyle that I live? I've started to think of my business as more so, how can I scale this business to be something that an investor in the future wants to purchase from me so that I don't have to work this business for the rest of my life? So that is where I'm kind of trying to guide us. By all means, if all you want to have is a lifestyle business clearing 100 grand, 250 grand in billings and revenue a year, go for it. But when you want to get to that $500,000 desk on up to $1 million and so forth, we have to know these recruiting aspects, and we got to think scale minded. Like, how can I multiply my own efforts? How can I leverage other people? If I can, at my recruiting desk, at my agency owner desk, do $250,000 a year, imagine if I had 10 people working for me that can do that. So that's what we're thinking of. And that's what Erica is helping with and familiar with tonight. So let me just glance at the agenda again. Does anybody have any questions at this juncture? If you do, feel free to jump on off of mute and let us know. So I want to jump right into building a strong team. So this is where we're going to go ahead and start Erica's portion, building a strong team and just the qualities of a recruiter and what all goes into recruiting. So Erica, do you need me to share? Or are you ready?
I can share. Hold on.
All right. Cool. This is the good part, y'all. I got my, take my notes.
Hold on, let me do share screen.
Okay.
All right, there it goes. Wait, let me see. All right, I think you can just see, Sean. Can you see the recruiter basics? Are you guys able to see that?
Not yet. It says Erica has started sharing, but it hasn't jumped up there just yet. There it goes.
Okay. All right. So the thing is, even if you're staffing, I just want you to be open-minded to at least field for a few positions. So if you're going to do healthcare, you could do finance, you could do IT. IT was very big. It's kind of stalled right now, so I wouldn't say go into that at this moment, honestly. And you can have customer service and admin once you get more familiar. So when you're fielding for candidates, I know I heard Daquan said, you know, he knew some people, but you want to have a pipeline, because what if the people that they know and that you know aren't available at that time and you wouldn't be able to fill for that job? So that's why it's very good to have a pipeline. And in order to have a pipeline, you're going to have to interview different candidates. And that's where the candidate interview comes in. So when you're doing an interview, you want to create your own candidate interview, because the client is expecting for you to send somebody great. They're expecting you to send somebody who's going to stay. They're expecting you to send somebody who really wants to work there. So you are the first person that the candidate meets before they come to the client. I'm not sure how far, I know some of you are just starting out, but when you're doing the candidate interview, you also would have to present the candidate to the client and that hiring manager. So you also want to get in tune of how to do that. So the first thing when you do your candidate interview is you want to gather work history and experience. I'm sorry, I'm starting. Wait, you want to look at the job description, and you want to point out those things that the candidate has to have. And the only way to do that is to look at the job interview to look at the resume and also talk with the candidate. Because unfortunately, some people put things on their resume that they actually do not know how to do. So it's good for you to know what it is that the client's actually needing. They don't want you to send somebody over there. It also ruins your money and wastes time if the person gets over there and they don't know how to do the job, or they don't end up staying more than a week or two. So while you're doing your candidate interview, the first thing you want to do is create your flow of questions that you need to ask them. First, it would probably be like their contact information, what their salary requirements are, and you have to drill that in, because if your salary requirements do not match what the candidate is willing to give, it's going to be a mess at the end. I always say get their salary requirement or what they desire and try to keep it in the middle. So just in case if that candidate was to get hired, you can either go up in salary and you still have that wiggle room. If you start at the top of what the client is willing to give, then you don't have any wiggle room and you would lose that candidate, whether you know them or not. Because when it comes down to salary negotiations, it can get crazy. So you always want to start there. You want to make sure that you see all of their accomplishments and talk about the process of working together. The thing is to have the candidate committed so that they actually are there and they want to work the job. So we'll go to the second. So interview notes, asking credible questions, doing the candidate interview, making sure that you know how many other people they are also interviewing with. So you have to keep that in mind, because sometimes you can find the perfect candidate and be ready to present, and they already are doing interviews. So to tell the client, like, we have to move fast on this person. We can't move like a week or 2 or 3 weeks trying to get this person in, because they already have interviews in place, and then you would lose out on that actual candidate. You also want to make sure that they are committed and confirmed interest before you tell the candidate who the client is, because then the actual candidate can go and apply to that job posting on their site, and then it would be null and void for you, because then you can't present that candidate.
Had that happen.
Yeah, I've had it happen.
With one of the respiratory therapist positions that I had open, Erica put a interview document of questions to ask. One of the things that you want to find out is if that person has been in direct contact with your client. I had a person who, she was a shoo-in. I just knew I was going to place this young lady. But towards the end, we went through the whole process, and towards the end, I asked her, I said, well, just to ask, have you been in direct contact with the client? Because typically we do not tell who the client is, and Erica's going to talk about that. But something in my spirit said, ask her whether or not she knows these people. And she was like, oh yeah, they sent me my background check information about a week ago. And I'm like, okay, congratulations, you probably already got the job. So what you may want to implement in your staffing company, once you lock somebody in to present them to a client, you may want to have what's called a right to represent in place, so that, and that can really be an email. As soon as that person agrees to let you submit them to the client, just get an email from them that says, I acknowledge that you are representing me for XYZ role. It can be something simple as them replying back to the email with the job description, but you can have, and I can give you different examples of that, but you may want to think about implementing rights to represent documents into your workflow, so that your candidate, you have a timestamp on when you're submitting them, because you have candidates that will go and interview with your agency, somebody else's agency, and the client. And if you go and you submit that person, you kind of look bad in front of the client, because it looks like you didn't do your due diligence. When we do our submissions in our VMS system for our allied health and medical roles, it says on there from the client, make sure you've done your due diligence to make sure there are no double and triple, quadruple submissions. They don't want you submitting the same candidate multiple times, and they don't want you submitting a candidate that has already applied directly with the company, if that makes sense.
So let me see. Are you guys able to see this interview screening questions?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So these are, you don't have to follow this order, but this is a good order to go through with your candidate. So it's going to be, what's their preferred contact method, email, phone, or text, or all three? Are they open to contract? Those are for contract positions. Contract to hire, that might be a 90-day before they go to an actual direct hire, all the way up to 6 months before they go up to a direct hire or a direct hire. You want to know what this person is interested in, and if they're open to one, if they're open to all, if they're only open to two, because if someone is only interested in direct hire, you're not going to present them for a contract position. So it's good to know that ahead of time. You also want to know their availability to interview with the client and able to start. So do they need 2 weeks notice? Do they need 3 weeks notice? Do they just need 1 week? Even if they say I can start ASAP, it's always just good knowledge to put 1 week because that still gives them some time. And then again, here we are with the desired salary range. And that's where you'll get all the salary range information. A lot of times they'll be like, well, at my last position, I made just 60K. We'll put that out there. But legally, from an HR standpoint, you cannot ask them, this is illegal, what they made at their last position. You cannot. Now, if they volunteer that information to you, that's fine, but you cannot ask them. And then try to get them to narrow it down, because a lot of times they're like, well, I don't know. And then you get to the client and they do know. So just kind of stay on them, like, what is your desired salary range? And I'm going to try to get it as close to that as possible. Because as a recruiter, you're working for the client and you're working for the actual candidate as well. You want to know, as far as the nursing world, I'm not sure, but you want to know their work authorization in the United States. I know some people don't think about that, but if you want somebody that just has citizenship or a green card, you need to know that information as well. And then just to get some of the critical information, are you okay with doing a standard background check, a drug screening, and a credit check? Credit check might not be so big. I come from a finance background and government background because that's what I usually recruited for. So credit checks are big on that side because they might have to get a secret clearance. But for the standard, you just want to know if they are okay with doing a drug screening and a standard background check. If they kind of say anything that sounds suspect, you want to just kind of engage and kind of get some more information so that it's not a surprise to you or the client if something comes back. You also want to know if they have any upcoming vacation plans in the next 3 months, because that's good to know if they're going to be coming on to a direct hire. The client can also know, like, hey, we can work around that for as far as like training. If they're going to have they start working there. Oh, sorry. They start working there and they have a vacation coming up. And then you also need to know their highest completed education, whether that be high school, college. And then, you want to get the information as much as you can from the resume and also from the person, because sometimes they forget to put certain things on their resume that they might have had as far as certifications and education that they had. This is for basically the person that's interviewing them to do. So like communication skills. Can you understand this person? Do you see anything that may not work well as far as communication skills? If they are foreign, are you, because you want to make sure that they'll be okay with the client going into the interview where the client comes back and was like, hey, we could not understand this person. Personality trait, you usually want to just be real and say if they're personable, they're direct. Whatever personality traits you picked up, that's always good to let the client know. As far as commute, I know that Sean talked about some of this, in office, hybrid, remote. You also want to make sure they are willing to drive to the location and they're not too far. So that commute actually gives you a number of things to ask. I know since a lot of it's nursing, it would definitely be in office, but you want to make sure they can get there and get to the place on time. And then you can ask them 3 strengths or great accomplishments, because this section right here is what you can present to the client while you're presenting the actual resume. So let's just say, for instance, Lisa, you can put in these 3 things, like she's extraordinary at using Salesforce. If that's something that they actually require, then they'll have those 3 accomplishments also with her resume. So you're selling the candidate over to the client. Technical skills are like, do they know how to use Word? Things like that, Excel, or different healthcare programs, or CRM, or any kind of technical skills they might have. Then you'll have all that information. Then the interview status comes in on whether or not do they have an offer on hand right now? Because if they have an offer, then that means that they're just taking this interview, and it's a possibility that they might not actually take the job, because they're going to be deciding between their pending offer and this offer if they did get offered. So it kind of keeps you in a loop. And then you want to know the reason for seeking. Why are they seeking right now? Which will give you, are they passively seeking? Are they currently working? Are they not working? Because that you have to keep track of the actual candidate so that you can actually get that person placed. So the more information the better. And then outside of money, what other things are they looking for from a company? And this, you really want to be honest, which is, when I had a client, I would always go and look and see what they offered. Did they have a great culture? How was their performance in the first 3 months? How did they give feedback? Are they on that list of top 100 places to work in the United States? Those are all selling points to the candidate, because in order for you to get that money from that candidate, you have to sell them on the job, and you have to sell the candidate to the client. And then you also want to know their industry experience and preference. I don't know how this goes into nursing. I'm not sure, but in my world, it was like, some people wanted to work for private sector, nonprofit, or government. So you want to know that. And then also, maybe somebody was doing nursing and they want to change and start doing authorizations because they wanted to scale down and not do so much nursing. So that gives you different avenues to place that person. And then you can advise candidates that many companies staff that they require the COVID vaccination. It is against the law to ask anybody, are they vaccinated at this time? You cannot ask them that. They can, you can gauge it in a way where they'll tell you, but you cannot come out and ask them. That's prohibited. So I was just, I just advise, like, hey, this company requires a COVID vaccination booster shot, like however many the company has, because I know there's a couple of boosters. I'm not sure how many there is right now, but they might just require a COVID vaccination and like 2 boosters. I'm not asking you for that status right now, but I want to let you know that if you do end up getting hired, that this is going to be a requirement, because some people are against it, and there's no reason for you to send that person if they're not willing to get vaccinated. It's a waste of time for both the candidate and the client. So those are just basic things to kind of get from the interview questions, because essentially you're going to be presenting this candidate to the client. So does anybody have any questions?
I have one question in the chat. Let me open it up. Zipporah. Hey, Zipporah. She says that if the client doesn't know their desired salary range, can we give them a marketplace example?
You can, but I don't advise that. uh, because then it's kind of like they're just gonna go with whatever you say versus what they really want, and you want to minimize that as much as possible. So whenever people tell me like I don't know, I'm like, what is the amount that you need to survive, like to pay your bills, that you're gonna be comfortable with? And then they're like, oh, okay, like 28 an hour, and you're like, okay, and then you can just put that 28 and then convert it over to, you know, however much yearly. But you really want them to say that, because you could give them that and some people just want a job. They're like, yeah. And then they get there and they got offered something else at some other job, and you can't compete with them because they didn't really tell you a salary that they themselves are comfortable with.
Right. And I just want to chime in and add that you are being paid for making a placement.
Mm-hmm.
What you do not want to happen is that you get through however many rounds of interviews that person has to go through, the drug test and the background check, and then you get your candidate to the door with the client, and they start wanting to negotiate their salary and might talk themselves out of an offer. Like once that offer is made, you do not want your candidate to get that offer and then decide they want to negotiate a new salary, because that may get them out of that offer.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't make that offer, they don't show up that first day, they don't do those 90 days, 30 days, you don't get paid. So that's why you're going to do your due diligence and get as much information out of your candidate as possible, whether you're doing contract or direct placement. You want to know who you're sending in. You don't want any surprises that can trick you out of making that placement and thus getting that money, because it's a lot of work that goes into this recruiting piece. That's why I found it very important to have this piece. There is a lot that goes into both sending candidates out, getting them prepared, even on a contract PRN basis to go into the client, and definitely with placing them directly. So you don't want salary to be the thing that ends up shutting that client out after you've done, shutting that candidate out after you've done so much work to get them to the door.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of candidates, unfortunately, at that point of getting to salary. So I had to get it down myself, making sure that they stay in that middle range. And sometimes the client, if it's a really great candidate, they're willing to go up, but that doesn't happen that often. So it's better to get it in the beginning, because then you've wasted everyone's time at that point, and that doesn't look good on you. So
definitely. Like that's just, it's so many other things that might come up later that you don't want salary to be one of those things. Like you want to be clear on what is offered. Oftentimes, and Erica offer your feedback as well. That is why with my job descriptions and when I'm posting for jobs, I post what the salary ranges are, so that you know before you submit that resume what is open for you to get. And even in the first conversations, the first interview, there may be some discussions and some wiggle room. But outside of that, you don't want somebody deciding that you've gotten all the way through the process and now all of a sudden it was 170 grand that they agreed to and now they want 200,000. Oh my God, you don't want that.
No. And another thing that people will do, which is also you want to know if they're working or not, is sometimes they might want to go for this job just so they can have an offer to present to their current job that, hey, I'm going to another company that's willing to pay me this. So will you counter offer? And you can lose a candidate through a counter offer. It happens all the time. They didn't really want that. They wanted to stay where they were. And if their current job is willing to counter offer, they will stay with that other job. So it's also very good to know in that section, are you currently working? Are you like, why are you seeking employment right now? Because most people will tell you. Go ahead, Sherry. I'm sorry.
So sometimes they could just doing it for that purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Happens. People are fickle. I'm gonna be honest. And that's why it's good to have. And if when you're doing those candidate interviews, if you feel anything is off, go with your hunch, and don't even present them.
Because keep in mind too that as an agency owner, for some reason people have a partiality to permanent positions working directly with the company. It wasn't until I started with some of my contract roles probably about 5 years ago that I began to really, really respect and enjoy what it is that staffing agencies do, and really appreciate the whole, even if it's contract to perm, do 3 months with the contract and then go in with the company, because there will be people who waste your agency time. They get into your agency just to learn more about the client, and then they end up backdooring you, the agency owner, and trying to get on directly with the client. So these are some things that as you're vetting people, you want to be on the lookout for, because Erica mentioned earlier, sometimes even in the way that you word your job description, they can copy and paste that into Google and go find out who the client is and go apply directly with your client. And then they'll still sit there and interview with you and get all this information from you because they think they're trying to kind of pit one against the other. Well, I'm going to go with this agency and see who I can get a better deal with. Or I'm going to see if I don't get in the door this way, then I'll use this one as a backup to get in. And it's like, no, that's not what we're going to do. So you want to be on the lookout for those type of individuals as you're interviewing them and vetting them, because you're gonna, whether you're doing direct placement or contract, you are gonna interview everyone as if they are coming kind of to work for you. If you're doing direct placement, of course, you are interviewing them, doing a pre-screening for the client, but there aren't very many times that you're going to submit somebody and not do a preliminary interview with that candidate before you submit them.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that sometimes happens with candidates. As far as the client, I mean, you when you talk to the client, the candidate as well, you want to let them know that you're working for them. So you want to let them know what your relationship is. So me as a recruiter, if I'm working for this candidate, I'm going to look at their resume and I'm going to help them build their resume. I'm going to give them suggestions on what they need to move, how it needs to look. They don't need to have pictures on there. They can remove irrelevant information about they're on a sewing club and volunteer work, because we don't need all of that. They don't need those first long introductions that people love to have on their resume now. We don't need all that, because we're going to be introducing them from their resume, from talking with them. And then also you're going to prepare them for the interview. The good thing is if you have a couple of candidates that you are going to be submitting, once you have that first person go through the interview, you want to follow with them to see how the interview went. So that way you can help your other candidates going into the interview, and it helps that person, like, okay, they asked this, this, and this, they're going to want to know this. So it helps you to one, prepare them for the interview, because I'm going to tell you that if you don't, people show up to interviews, wow, they're not dressed appropriately, not on time. So you want to send them an email. This is the person you're meeting with. This is the time. Please dress appropriately. Go to the website and look at the company that that I'm presenting you for. Get that background information and just prepare them to be ready for the interview, and even do a walkthrough if they need it, because you need them to be excellent so they can get the job. And if they don't, that's okay. But you want to get that intake information after, so you can help your other candidates that you have be able to ace with this hiring manager. So there's a lot of different things that go on with it. And then on top of that, after, if you have a contract to hire, that person is essentially going to be yours until they're no longer on the contract, because everything that happens, they're going to need to call you and they're going to need to call the client. They're late for work, they got to call you because you're their employer.
Right.
They're not going to show up that day, they got to call you. They need vacation, they have to call you. So you need to have all that in place as well.
Right.
Not until that time period is up, of course.
Until that time period is up, yes. And the better that they do on that contract, the better it is for you. Because if they're doing so well, if the company actually has enough money, they'll extend their contract. Happens all the time. Like, oh, they were here for 6 months, they did such a great job, we still need the help, we're going to extend them out another 6 months. Or they can go in and say, hey, we really like the person you had come, you know, we want to hire them. And then you would also get a direct hire out of that person.
And that's another fee for you that you're going to be collecting. You also want to be mindful of the fact that sometimes your contracts may end prematurely due to, I don't know, budgeting. Or even if you have a person that you send out, it might be for a 13-week contract. I know they have those sometimes in nursing. So at the end of that 13-week contract, who are you gonna, is it just gonna be goodbye to that candidate, or are you gonna send your person to another client? So you're always sourcing, because when those contracts end, you need to be able to send them to someone else there, because extensions don't always happen. And again, sometimes placements end prematurely. And you want to be able to also assess, okay, if something ended prematurely, was it something that the candidate did? You know, like, is there something I should be alarmed about so that I'm not sending them? I need to maybe let them go from my organization as well, because they don't need to be sent to anybody else if it's something that they did. However, if it's a budgeting issue on the case of the client, well-known PBM, they used to be notorious for saying they need 30 coders. And then first day one comes, and after a week, they want to whittle down to 15. They want to go. So it's like, but you said you needed X amount of people. So every month they're shaving. They're converting some people to permanent. They're letting other ones go. So in your business, even if you are working a contract staffing model, you still need to always be sourcing to get new clients and having relationships with those clients, so that if something happens, you can move your people around to different assignments.
Yep.
Did anybody have any questions about that particular piece?
I don't know, the one part I was a little confused about. So, okay, say if they're for 60 days. So when that 60 days is up, and that's when you get paid.
Okay, I can clarify that. All right, so what typically happens is, and this will be in your contract. So you're gonna have a contract with the client, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. 90 is a bit extreme. You don't really wanna see 90 days, but sometimes it does happen with certain clients. Ideally, you want 30 to 60 day placement terms. What you are guaranteeing in that time is that that person will stay that 30 days. And if they do not, you will either refund the client or replace that candidate. Let me give you a tidbit. Don't give refunds. Don't even put refunds in your contract. You don't want to be refunding nothing. You tell them we're gonna send somebody else up that Monday. That's what you're gonna do. So if that person starts on day one, that's the day you send the invoice. And then you make that invoice payable 30 days out. And make it say within 30 days, because if they want to pay it tomorrow, go ahead. But they have 30 days contingent upon that person staying. That being so, they need to cut that check within 30 days by day 30. They may wait until day 30 to pay you, but they also may pay you at day 15, day 29. So what happens if they pay you at day 29 and that person doesn't make it to day 30? They stop on day 29. you're still gonna have to send out another person. And it wouldn't even be for one day. It would be another 30-day contract. So like, okay, let's just say it happens at day 15. Day 15, that person doesn't make it. You're not sending in somebody for a 15-day contract guarantee. You're doing it starts over. You're doing a whole nother 30 days or a whole nother 6. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yep. So it's literally somebody can screw you at day 29. All right. So that's why you want to, even when you're doing direct placements, of course, you're going to be in contact regularly with your contract staff because they're checking in with you. You're paying them. But with your direct placement people, when they interview, you want to touch base and say, hey, how did your interview go? Like, you want to form a relationship with that candidate so that if there's something going on, day 15, day 10, day 20, you're just checking in with them. Hey, I'm just checking to see how everything is going. How are you liking it? You want to make sure you get your check. Okay. Yeah. And you guarantee your check.
So you won't get your money until after that next 30 days from that next, that other.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you the good thing about that. In the beginning, it's hard to start because you're starting at 0 and you're getting paid at 30 or 60. But guess what happens when you have a constant stream of placements? That money starts to compound because what you did on day 0 gets rewarded at, say, day 30. What you did at day 30 and day 60, now by day 60, let's say you multiply it just by 2, you have 2 placements. Now you're getting that compounded effort. That's why you're continuing to source and continue making these placements, continue doing these contracts. That way you get into a rhythm of having a constant flow of income coming because you are only as good as your last placement. You cannot stay and revel in that last placement. You made that placement, you got your 25,000, your 10,000, your 7,000. You better celebrate, go out for drinks, enjoy that, and make sure you're placing again so that that momentum continues, because it's very easy to make one placement, get excited, and then you don't make any more for the next several months.
Right, keep it going. But that just to me, I mean, I haven't even been in it yet, but like I said, I was focused on the healthcare side of things. That just seems like a whole separate job in itself.
You know what? That is exactly it. That's why
I don't know if I could start off doing
because I said it to myself. I told Erica, I'm like, I did not realize how much of what I am doing is recruiting, and a lot of what you end up doing, you don't get rewarded for everything. I'm sorry, you might take somebody all the way to the door and still lose that placement. Like this job has so much revenue potential, but it is a lot of work. I was telling Erica today, I'm like, man, we'll touch bases Monday, because this week I physically still staff myself, and I do contracting for independent pharmacies that are getting started. I do their credentialing and things. So I have been away at a particular client for the last couple of days. I'm going back in there tomorrow to get some of their third-party insurances done. So I admittedly am juggling multiple things outside of just the staffing part. So staffing is a 24-hour business.
That's what I'm saying.
And you have to build that pipeline. So that's why you're interviewing, and really to have a great pipeline is to interview at least 20 people a week. And that's 20 screenings. And then you can pick through those and then put them in your pipeline. When a job comes up, all you have to do is email them. Hey, I have this open. Is it something you're interested in? I know your salary requirements. You have all that stuff because you've already screened and interviewed them, and you know what they're looking for. So if you have, let's say, like 25 people, you might have 10 say, hey, yeah, I'm open to this. So then you'll just go back and be like, okay, I can present this person because you've already interviewed that person. That's where the pipeline comes in. And that's what I'm saying, like, even if it's like, you know, people, you still need to have people, you know, you need to have new people come in there, because that pipeline is what's going to save you. You could get 3 placements because you have a pipeline.
And can we talk about that? Like, can we go into detail about what a pipeline is and the elements of building a pipeline?
So to build your pipeline, you're going to have, let's just say, I've done contract managers. So when I was sourcing for contract managers, for that week, I was literally interviewing 20 people. I want to see if they fit the requirements. And then I might not have a job for them right now, but I may have one next week. So I'm trying to see when they're available. Are they available now? Are they just kind of looking? So that's the part of building the pipeline, and then also emailing your pipeline when a position does come up to gain interest, because that gives you a number of maybe 4 to 5 people that are like, yeah, I'm I wasn't looking, but I'm interested to see what they're talking about. So you already done the work. So you don't really have to go out and look for more candidates, because you have a broad pipeline of people that you can contact. And that just means like having a generated email. You don't need to put their name, just put, hey, how you doing? And then the job description, and confirm your interest or not, and then you can talk with them about presenting them. So building your pipeline is a big thing. And in order to build that pipeline, that means that you're going on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Monster, LinkedIn, whichever platform you like to use, and you're going to want to use at least 4 of those. Also, if you have your own company website, you're going to want to post those positions on because that comes straight into you and you don't have to look for anybody. So that's building your pipeline. You want to post on LinkedIn, and I'm going to say, like, if you're not active on LinkedIn with your business, you need to become active. You need to join groups. You need to be posting. You need to be getting people to follow, because the best part with me when I was recruiting full time is once I posted a job, somebody else would repost. I didn't even have to go look for candidates at a certain point, because I had them all coming to me. Unless you're not getting quality candidates, you want to look. But if you're getting quality candidates, then that's another way for them to come to you. So you need to be active on LinkedIn. They have LinkedIn Recruiter. I know me and Sean talked about it's very expensive, but that opens up to tell you, you can do a pipeline on there. Like if you're looking for a contract manager, it'll list all the contract managers that are listed on LinkedIn. And if they quit their job or they done got mad at somebody and they're like, I'm done, they won't show it on their LinkedIn, but in Recruiter, it'll show only to recruiters that they're actually searching for a
open
position.
to work.
Mm-hmm.
Let me jump in on that. There are ways to source in LinkedIn for free. So LinkedIn has your regular LinkedIn, your LinkedIn premium accounts that you can sign up for as a person looking for a job. They have Sales Navigator. I was using Sales Navigator a lot in another business. Sales Navigator is more so of a lead generation type platform of LinkedIn, where it helps you to get contact information and email addresses. Then you get into Recruiter Lite. I'm currently using Recruiter Lite. That one is about $170 a month. And it gives you, I want to say 50 in-mails per month. Then it jumps from that 170 into the Recruiter subscription. That's about $850 a month. And it contains the option that Erica spoke about, where it'll have a little icon next to the person that says that they are open to work. And you can set up alarms to make it ping you every time somebody shows up in your pipeline, or recommended extensions of your pipeline. ready for work. So when we say a pipeline in LinkedIn specifically, you can create a project and you can name it registered nurses, clinical operations. And what you will do is it allows you to build your job posting in that project. And then it'll start recommending to you people on LinkedIn that matches the criterion of your job posting. And we'll get to this too, like how to do Boolean searches to make sure you narrow down and you're pulling out candidates from LinkedIn that honestly, you're looking for the people on LinkedIn who have not been contacted before. Like people that are on LinkedIn, they get contacted by recruiters all day, every day, especially if they have a more built out program or profile. But there are people on LinkedIn, I'm one of those sometimes, that hide our information because we don't want to be contacted by recruiters. We're not necessarily looking for employment, but sometimes the people that aren't looking, man, those are some of your best candidates. So you use those Boolean searches to pull out people who otherwise might not be found. They might not have a profile picture. They might not have it spelled out what it is they even do, but you can kind of find them based off of the different groups they belong to. You might find them in the comment section of a post, offering information about something that doesn't have to do with a job search, but they may be presenting themselves as a subject matter expert and they're responding to something up under a post that lets you know, like, hey, this person is an amazing geotechnical engineer. I'm hiring for a geotechnical engineer. So either they're a good candidate or, oh, they work for company X. Well, I want some more people who have worked for that same company or work with this person. I want more of that person. So that's how you really drill down into LinkedIn and find so many different candidates. Like we could actually, and we can have a whole nother section just on sourcing, like how to drill down into LinkedIn. So like I was saying about the different subscriptions, try out what works. There's a free way to do it. Whereas if you send somebody a request, you can either put into, I think they give you like 100 characters or something where you can send a little message to them. But every time somebody approves your connection, like they, I guess, friend you on LinkedIn, you'll get a message. You'll get a message from LinkedIn. Once they do that, you can hop in their inbox. So even if you don't have any in-mails because you're using the free subscription, or you've exhausted all your in-mails, you can still reach out to people for free just by sending them a contact request. Not everybody's gonna accept it, but just keep in mind that's a free way to interact with people. And this is what I recommend with that. As soon as you see them accepting your request, that is not the time to be spammy and jump in their inbox. Give them 24 hours. So as soon as LinkedIn tells you, hey, Erica Britley has accepted your LinkedIn request, don't go inbox her immediately. Wait a day. And then I have some templates and things that you can send her, and I'll put them in the Google Drive so that you can start building a relationship. Because she also mentioned with the contacts and with the emails, it's been shown that it takes about 6 times for somebody to see your name or see a message from you to like really want to talk to you. Right. You will have those people who might say, hey, don't contact me no more. They may block you. If they have not blocked you or told you don't contact them anymore, keep contacting them. Because another part of your role, you are a marketer. So you are always sourcing, you are always marketing. Yep. So what I recommend also is that you get yourself an email servicer. The way that I've been emailing you guys about these meetings, I use something called MailChimp, MailChimp. That allows me to send out mass messages to my contact list. I have my contact list divided into people who are on staffing agency owners like you guys. I have a logistics portion. I have my people who are candidates. So you would want to isolate your candidates and send them an email blast about your new position. That way you're not sitting there trying to individually email 100 people. Right. On the client side, you want to use those email pipeline options so that when you have let's just say you have a stellar nursing candidate and you're trying to get them placed, guess what you can do? You can email your client base with like some sort of candidate spotlight, introducing all of your clients at one time to this amazing nurse that's on your team that's just looking to be placed with one of their firms. Any questions about that?
Is there a charge for the sales navigator?
Yeah, sales navigator is $109, I believe. So there is free. Premium is $39 or $59. That's just the one that you use personally if you're hiring. Sales navigator is $109 a month, roughly. And don't quote me, just check it out. But I think $109. Recruiter is $169 or $179. Then recruiter light is $169. Then recruiter is the one that's like $850. And I will you have to contact them to get that subscription. So I am in the process of talking to them to see if there are any a la carte options that allow you to have some customizations in there for a lesser price. So when I have that meeting and I find that out, I will definitely report back if I was able to negotiate something less than $850. I will say though that $850 is not going to stop me from getting it, simply because the average placement, you guys, on the direct hire side is $3,000 to $4,000, and that's on the very low end. So one placement will pay for your subscription if you keep placements going. Multiply that by however many placements you can make. So that's on the low end. On the high end, if you're placing for these 6-figure tech positions, these nursing positions, your payback is going to be a whole lot more. And that's another thing that I want to tell you too, that if you're looking into doing contract staffing, these contract nursing positions, they're wanting $3,000, $4,000 or something a week. So you have to have the bandwidth to be able to pay that. There is something called payroll factoring companies where they buy your accounts receivable. They see, you know, what it is that you're expecting from your clients, and they take on that bill. They go ahead and front you the money to make your payroll, and then they wait to be paid by your client for a percentage. So even if you don't have the money right up front to do payroll for a contract company, you can see if you can qualify for payroll factoring. That being said, having that good mix of direct hire and contract placement, those direct hires can help front you some of the money to make payroll on the contract side. So that's why you want to kind of be doing both, because if you're getting $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 from your direct placements, that can pay a good portion of your payroll on your PRN side.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
No, that's good. But having the factoring company, I mean, when it's like a small percentage for them to, you know.
Yeah, usually like 3%.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will, I have a list of them. So I know I have not posted it yet. I put it somewhere else, but I have a lot of lists of different resources and stuff. So I'll send that out eventually on the mailing list that you guys are on, because everybody that's on here tonight is a part of the mailing list, and you should have access to the Google Drive already. If you don't, just send me an email. It's because it's something in the future that I'm going to be charging for once I get the program down pat for what I want to be offering for the coaching for the staffing agency. So you guys are all grandfathered in. So whatever goes on that Google Drive, you're going to get it as if you paid for like a membership. So just keep in mind that if you don't already have access to the staffing agency startup classroom, let me know, because you want to go ahead and have access now before I start to charge for it. We have a question. Danny is here. Hey, so she says that, how do you feel about Paycom? I'm exploring onboarding companies on the PRN side. Paycom is a good one. There are several different companies, but Paycom is definitely one of the good ones. You can use Gusto. You can use, it's so many different ones. So I'm gonna try. I think Paycom is definitely on the list that I already have. So they're a good one. This is another thing I want y'all to always be doing. When it comes to these payroll companies, factoring companies, LinkedIn, all these things that you need memberships and subscriptions to, ask for the free trials if they have it, and also ask for the, what is it called? The demos. Don't be afraid to get demos from every company. When you do your ATS, your applicant tracking systems, your VMS systems, get demos from all these companies. See what they can offer you. See what packages they can put together. See what free trials they're offering. The only cumbersome part about that is you would have to move your information around. But a lot of these systems integrate together. So for example, with MailChimp, I was thinking about moving my email service from MailChimp to one of the other servicers. So if you go and Google MailChimp, their competitors pop up and say, hey, I can give you better service than MailChimp, and I have a way to easily migrate all of your people. So just keep that in mind. Always be doing the demos for the different services. Daniela also says, what is a good invoice company? There's several of them. I have a list of those too. So as a matter of fact,
there's a new one that came out too. I think it's called HoneyBook.
Yes,
I actually have HoneyBook now. So it's $1 for the first 6 months. So it's only $1 that you pay a month. And then after that, then you go into full price. So it's much like QuickBooks.
Yeah, because I was seeing them a lot on TikTok for I've been looking at the lash installation services, like the people that have lash businesses, and a lot of them apparently are using HoneyBook. Workers insurance. Okay, workers insurance. There is a company called HPSO. HPSO, I will pull them up right now. There are several of those too. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start putting together a resource list for insurance, invoice companies, everything. The HPSO is what I use personally for my professional liability insurance.
That's what I'm getting.
HPSO, yeah, I like them, and I have used them like for years. HPSO. Even I want to put together something if you decide on the PRN side to offer benefits to your employees. A lot of staffing companies are doing that as well. Let me see if I can share this screen.
And that's going to make the candidates more committed if you do have that insurance piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is that through the HPSO too? Also?
No, HPSO more so is professional liability and your general liability for your business. Right. You want to have that in place. A lot of, if you're doing certain contracts, they're going to require to see that. So I'm gonna jot this down and get you guys a list of all these things. So an invoice company, workers insurance. And when you say workers insurance, Jaquan, do you mean healthcare or workers compensation, or both? Workers insurance. And yes, Miss Cassandra, a recording absolutely will be sent out. So we're gonna have a recording, and then it's also gonna be posted on YouTube in the future. So yes, there will be a replay of this. Okay, yes. So you're asking for workers' insurance. So I'm gonna look into that for you. I'm gonna tell you this part too, and be honest. I do not offer insurance. I'm not saying that you shouldn't or anything of that nature, because it's something that I want to offer in the future. But you want to, where possible and where beneficial to you, learn the benefits of having people on payroll, W-2, versus having them 1099. You may benefit from even having people. I know that with I required the agencies that I worked for in the last 5 years for my PBM clients, I worked 1099 NEC or 1099 to my LLC. Me, Sean, I don't get paid. They pay Care Dynamics. That's even when I'm working with my agencies. And if you specify that, a lot of them will do that. So that may be something on the reverse that you want to offer to your people. Reason being, it lowers your burden as far as trying to figure out somebody else's taxes. It shifts that responsibility onto them. So you sit down with your accountant and you do your due diligence and find out whether or not it will be beneficial for you, for your PRN people, to put them on 1099 or on W-2. Okay. And honestly, I mean, I can give recommendations and experiences that's beyond the scope of this. So if you want to know, just email me and we'll talk another time. But that's something that you're going to have to determine for your business and for your model. Okay. So you may not want to get all into, depending on what you're doing, you may not want to get into offering benefits and all that. Because I'm going to tell you something, these nurses, and Danny backed me up on this because she is a nurse and she does the traveling nurses. Them nurses make enough money to pay for some insurance if they want some insurance on the individual level. Okay. So that just may not be something that you want to venture down into. I know it looks good as far as she said, and do y'all make enough money. A lot of them make enough money to get some insurance if they want some health insurance. So just be mindful that yes, you want to offer the best experience possible for your workers, but you also want to be operational. So you don't want to be doing anything that costs your businesses too much in the beginning, upfront overhead to run your business and grow. I tell people all the time, I don't pay salaries. I'm not there yet. I don't pay salaries. Erica will tell you, I come and I say, okay, what can we do on a commission basis? Basically, you get paid based off of the work that you put in, because you don't want to get in the habit of paying people these salaries. And oftentimes when people are on a salary or on an hourly wage, all they do is the job, their description. They don't do nothing outside of it, and they barely do that. So you want to explore paying people on a 1099 contract basis and commission basis where you can. And I mean, for your people that might be working for you, I'm in the process of hiring a virtual assistant for us in the Philippines. Those people get paid an hourly wage, but it's only like $5 an hour. And my guy friend, he was like, oh, that's slaving them. No, it's not slaving them. Their cost of living allows them to live fine on $800 a month. So if I'm paying $800 a month, that's what I'm paying for that person to work for me 40 hours a week, doing various administrative tasks. Some of the sourcing that we would be doing, you can hire those people. Outside of that, you're not trying to be paying anybody a weekly salary where you can avoid it. Yes, there are places that you cannot avoid it. Of course, pay people where you got to pay them, but don't be pressured to do all of that extra benefit stuff if it's going to stop you from being able to economically run your business. Okay, because one of the caveats of them working for you as an agency, if they want certain benefits, they need to go get a job and not be working with the agency. These nursing positions, they purposely oftentimes work with the agencies because there is more money made up front. Right. So that they got to be ready for the trade-off. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
So where are we? Because it's 8:20. So I kind of wanted us, we can go, but I kind of wanted us to kind of stick to the 2-hour mark so that when we upload it and everything, we don't go too far over. Let's see. Danny also says, do you know about the lead generating VAs? Yes. I've seen things in Facebook groups. Okay, so they're that style of recruiter that we were talking about earlier. And I think that was, I got to figure out the name of it, but Sherry was mentioning that. Those are the style of recruiters that sometimes get a bad rep. They're the ones that call and they don't speak the best English and they're like rattling off these job descriptions and skills, just trying to do like kind of guerrilla marketing for recruiters. You have those, and then you do have the ones who are seasoned recruiters that you can get to hire in your business from, say, the Philippines for $800 a month. Will there be another Zoom soon? Because I missed everything. It will be recorded. It will be recorded. This is being recorded right now, and you're going to get a replay. Everybody that came through this route will get the replay, and then it's going to be on my YouTube, because most of the people that are on here too found me via YouTube. So you will see it again. There also will be other meetings because it's so many topics that I have been wanting to cover, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to get the information out. So I'm gonna try to do maybe a monthly meeting for different topics just like this. I just thought it was so important to do this recruiting piece. And I even told Erica that we might have to have a part 2 to this recruitment, because we haven't even gotten to the Boolean searches and stuff like that. So we'll, if we can't get this done by 9, we will have another meeting. So y'all don't worry. And I'm in the process. I got about 70 something pages done, but I'm working on a book, like a kind of a, it's a workbook on starting your staffing agency, but also on operating. Like my big thing is operations, because everybody can start a business. Everybody can go get an LLC, go get an EIN number and say, I have a staffing agency. But when it comes down to this operations and this recruiting piece, a lot of people fall short. So I want to make sure, for example, in my book, I have a recruiting challenge. Erica mentioned that you want to be interviewing 20 people. Did you say a day or a week?
A week. Yeah.
Okay.
A week.
20 interviews a week. I'm going to take it a step further. When you're building your business, when you start operating day 1, I want you making 100 candidate phone calls a day to find, and it doesn't have to be phone calls. I can say it can be some LinkedIn message, but you need to be reaching out to 100 candidates and 20 clients. And that's, you should be able to do that in a day. I know that in another business that I have, freight brokering, we learn by cold calling and getting on them phones. Yeah. LinkedIn takes some of the coldness out of the call, so some of it will be more warm. But one of the challenges that I'm coming up with is I want you guys to have tangible things that you do every day, operations wise, because business development is the name of the game. If you don't have clients paying you and you don't have candidates to place them, you do not have a staffing business. You have a hobby. And honestly, I wouldn't even say it's a hobby, because a lot of this stuff ain't fun. It's not. And that's why I also talk about the delegation and outsourcing piece, because you can hire people. I just don't recommend you starting the business with the intention of hiring employees. Start the business with the intention that you're going to be the best employee to your own business. Everything that you're trying to hire somebody else to do, I could have said, you know what, this recruiting stuff is hard, I'm gonna hire recruiters. No, I went to my cousin, who's a great recruiter. It's like, Cuzzo, you want to help me? I have a VMS system. I don't, how many roles in it? Like 500 or something. It needs to be done. The clients and the roles are already there, and we got to get that stuff out. So I could have easily said, okay, I want to get Erica and some other recruiters to do that for me. No, I'm getting her to teach me recruiting so that I can be the best worker in my own business.
Mhm.
Don't ever start a business with the idea that you're going to hire people, because human capital is a very, very, very expensive. That's the most expensive expense that you're going to have in your business. And human resources is costly, because something simple as asking somebody the wrong question can get your business sued. That's why we have Erica here. You can't just be asking people certain things that I didn't even know. I didn't know I couldn't ask people, well, do you have a COVID vaccination? Are you against? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And
That
so,
cost my business. Go ahead.
and what's really important too about you doing a lot of these things, at least at first yourself, just to say if something happened to that person or something and you fill in, and you would know what to do.
Amen. That is so important. It is so important to scale. So I say, until your business, each of us comfortably can run a recruiting business, and I don't know what they call it. I call it a 360 desk, where each recruiter in the agency is running their whole desk. They're running it like an independent operation. So if you're doing a 360 desk, you should be able to be billing for, I would say, up to $250,000. Once you make $100,000 in your business, then you can think about hiring people. But until you have a 6-figure business, you should be doing everything yourself. Like, you don't be out here. Like, I remember I had a young lady who consulted with me, and she was asking me like, oh, what's the best ATS system? Honey, to start out, you don't need no ATS, applicant tracking system. You need Excel spreadsheets. You need a Google get a Google Workspace. Google Workspace, I want to say, is $7 a month or something, because we have multiple email addresses. I just got an email address, the domain related one for Erica. Operate a Google Workspace, operate Excel spreadsheets, operate free MailChimp. Do what you can for now with the free LinkedIn. Yes, it is aspirational to be able to go up to the recruiter, but I don't recommend nobody getting the $850 recruiter subscription up front. And the reason I say that is, if you have clients and you're looking for candidates, then it would be worth it, because you're able to make them placements. But until you get your clients, it doesn't matter if people's profile says ready to work. You don't have nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
So before you go get the ATS systems, the VMS systems, and all these systems, get you some clients. And in doing that, you're going to be making those 20 phone calls, those discovery calls. And we will have future meetings about that, of where to get clients for. I don't know if some of you saw, I sent an email out about maybe a month ago that talked about the truth about where to get clients. If you look on all these YouTube channels, they will say, oh, you get clients by networking, you get clients, scratch all that. You get clients by aiming to be an approved vendor with these companies. They have a process for it. So you can go to all the conferences you want, you can make all the phone calls you want. If you do not set the objective of finding out what it takes to be an approved vendor for Microsoft or whatever company that you're trying to work for, you are shorting yourself, because these people aren't sitting there waiting on your agency to call them and send them candidates. The bigger companies already have a process for the agencies they work for. And the smaller companies, the new founding companies, those are the ones where you can make some phone calls, do some outreach, do some networking to sign up with them and maybe make a few placements. But you got to keep in mind that those smaller companies are not going to be hiring as much as your bigger companies. For example, in the PBM world, they hire every welcome season. Like, it goes in cycles. So every year around about September, maybe even August, they start hiring for the next welcome season. and they're hiring teams of people. We need 30 pharmacists. We need 50 this. We need this admin person. So in order to get those type of contracts, you got to figure out how to get on the approved vendor list. I have actually been uploading some of those contracts into the drive. If you've paid attention, I don't always announce what it is I'm putting in the drive. Check that drive once a week, because when I see something, I upload it in there. So it's always some gems in there, because I know I got one big city government contract that kind of gives you a template to go off of. Because then you get into, when you're getting the big contracts, what is a statement of work? The SOWs.
Yeah, SOWs.
Erica's in government contracts. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so with the government contracts, that you need to network. And also, if you do a placement with one and it's a great placement, that opens you up to way more. That's just how they work. And getting in with them is going to be a lot harder, because a lot of times, even if it's for nursing in different areas, because they need nurses for military bases, where they have ones that are in the military, but they also have outsourced ones as well, because there might not be enough. If there's a war or something, they're going to be over there. They're going to need to field people for over here. So that is going to be a lot of networking. You have to go in and bid for those contracts. And you have to know how to write a proposal. And before, on some of those, when you're doing a proposal, if you get that contract, you only have 30 days to get people into those positions. 30 days, that's it. That's why you need to have a pipeline if you're going that way. But also, you want to also look into getting into the SBA in your certain areas. I'm in Virginia, so we have a Virginia SBA. They have one in Maryland, DC. I'm on this side of the world. I know that some of you are all in Florida. So you want to get into the SBA. They're going to also help you. They're going to give you a lot of different options. And they also have a lot of free things for you to get into, so that you can also be a woman-owned business. If you're a small woman-owned business, they might open those contracts up to minority and women-owned business, veteran-owned. I think Hawaiians have a certain one, and Indians also, which you have to have a percentage of that in you to actually claim those. But the SBA is going to be your best bet to even get into some of those government contracts, because they do need nurses sometimes. I mean, the way it's looking, if they would need to staff nurses, if the nurses that are in the military have to go out into a war kind of situation. So they're going to have to bring over nurses for that. Or there's a disaster, you know how like there's a hurricane or whatever, they're going to need to fill nurses for those. And those for FEMA goes very fast. But you have to go to the SBA and you got to know how to write proposals. That's the biggest thing. I worked for a small women-owned business, so I had to, of course, help write proposals. They're not the easiest thing to do, and be honest, but it's not something you can't learn.
Right.
So that's another option, and that's guaranteed money coming from the government. They ain't gonna play with your money. It's gonna be guaranteed.
So get your certifications. That's something that I slept on. I'm in the process. Those minority-owned, woman-owned contracts, get those under your belt, because what'll happen is kind of like what's happening on the project that Erica and I are working on. It came down to me from another agency owner, and that kind of segues into another point of staffing splits. Do not be closed off to collaboration. I think some of the best money that we're about to be making is going to come from my partnerships with other agency owners who had the certifications and things to get all these contracts. So that's where, when I say there's a VMS full of 500 positions to fill, I have a partner who, her agency has the VMS system, has all of this work that needs to be done, and her agency does not have the bandwidth to cover it all. So me and another agency are working with her. So it's 3 agencies or more working to fill these positions. So be on the lookout for staffing splits. Go ahead and get those certifications so that you can be the agency that gets all the jobs handed down, and then you subcontract them out in essence. So, and there's money to be made so many different ways around. I saw a question. Hold on. Let me go. I see y'all's questions. So let me start from the top. So Zipporah said, wait a minute. Okay, wait. Someone said approximately how long does it take to get started in this business? I would say getting started is when you have your first client. That all depends on you. So I can say that this business can take a month to get started. It could take years to get started if you never secure a client. Because I feel like you're not officially in business, in my opinion, until you have a job order. So however long it takes you to get a client and get a job order in. Zipporah says, I need these questions. How many hours would you suggest to plan to work on starting this? Oh, yes, good question. How long should you be working on this business? This business can be done part-time, but I do not recommend it. This is a 24/7 operation. In that you're going to always be receiving, people can go and apply for jobs in the middle of the night. I would argue that you need to be devoting a good 35. You need to be devoting full time to this to really build and scale this business. Again, there are individuals who, Erica, for example, she's going to be helping me out part-time. This is a business where you can decide how much work you want to do, especially if you have the job orders already to fill. We can go look in the system and see how many job orders we got and kind of cherry pick which ones we want to work on. But if you're starting an agency scratch and you don't have contacts with other agencies to do the splits with, you're building your business from the ground up. So that's all about building your relationships, making those cold calls. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not easy to call 100 candidates and 20 clients every day. I won't even say, I wouldn't say that it's possible for everybody, especially if you're thinking about doing it part-time. So yes, you can start the agency with a full-time job, but you're going to need some support because I don't know, like, okay, optimal time to be contacting clients is, I would argue, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. because you don't want to call the clients too early because they already have meetings, they're getting their teams together. So they're more apt to respond to phone calls and emails between the hours of 10 a.m. to 3. A candidate on the other hand, you can call them earlier in the morning because these are people who are looking for work. Even if they have another job, they'll probably step outside or step to the car to take your phone call. So you can start calling your candidates 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning on up into maybe sometimes in the evening if that's their contact preference. But when it comes to your client sourcing, you're making phone calls to the client and trying to get meetings with your clients and presentations done between the hours of 10 and 3. And we'll have another meeting in the future about setting up those presentations. Erica mentioned them. But like I said, it's a lot of information to get done, in 2 hours. So there will be a part 2 to this. So I want you guys to email questions that we didn't answer tonight so that we can have some subject matter for the next meeting.
Yeah, I posted in there the SBA. You can go onto their website and you can go ahead and start seeing what things you need to gather to become a woman-owned or minority-owned, veteran-owned, Alaskan-owned, just, different things. I'm just going through all of them because I know them. And then also, once you get that part done and your business is, growing, you can also get an 8A. And that's a lot to explain, but that's also a very good thing as well as getting your 8A, getting your SBA. getting ISO certified in your 3rd year, that certifies you as a great company. And then once you have that, people, the ISO certification is a lot, but people
Is that
will,
ISO?
yeah, ISO.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. And when you say 3rd year, is it 3rd year in operation or?
3rd year in operation, yep.
Okay.
And that is like somebody who comes out, you have to get ready and they audit your entire business.
Oh, okay.
And if you're ISO certified, then people are going to look at you as a great company. That's like the Beyonce. Like, oh, we have to work with this person because they have an ISO certification. So you want to put things into plan and set your goals of where you want to be. And that SBA small business will help you get government contracts, because even with the things that happened with COVID, they had to reach out to certain nurses to come and give out some of those, administer at first, those first shots and things. And if you can get into those, that's an easy fill. You can find the people and send them very quickly. And like Sean said, you need to be marketing all the time. I'm not saying you need to be a influencer, but you need to almost dang near be that, because aside from just doing LinkedIn, you want to pick 2 other sourcing websites that you want to use, whether that be Indeed is a good one because people, and ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is getting to be up there with Indeed. Those are the 2 that I would say you're going to get the most candidates. And then you also have Career Builder, Dice, Monster, and Glassdoor. So it's whichever one you're going to be comfortable with. I would say the ones that I use primarily were always Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn. That's where I found the most. Monster is just hit or miss, but Indeed for sure, because you can post something, you can post a job on Indeed, and if it's a great position, you'll at least get 15 candidates in like an hour.
Yep. I didn't think about ZipRecruiter. I'm gonna go on there because back in the day when ZipRecruiter first came out, it seemed real spammy to me. So for the purpose of being hired as a pharmacist, I never used it, but I'm gonna put Care Dynamics on there. And Dice is one that if you're looking to do technical roles, they blow my phone up, because some of what I do, what I segued into doing as a pharmacist is business analyst. So if you're looking to get business analyst roles, but also to fill for those types of technical roles, Dice is a big one. They have a lot of those offshore recruiters though, like a vast majority. And like I said, I'm gonna find out what that style of recruiting is and write up a piece and send it to you guys about it. Also, again, always be marketing. So you also want to get what's called a Canva subscription. You don't necessarily have to pay for it, but I do use Canva Pro. That's like a service where you can make different graphics. So Instagram posts, social media posts, Chat GPT. I don't know if you guys have been hearing what's going on with AI and Chat GPT. I got Chat GPT to write the copy for the emails I sent y'all, blog posts, these lists that I'm telling you that I'm going to be sending you about the resources. Man, Chat GPT does all of that. Social media captions, it does so much. So be on the lookout for these artificial intelligence based businesses. They have AI that can do your sourcing for you, can do your candidate screenings for you, all kinds of things. And that's a lot to cover in this meeting. So we just got to have more meetings. We got to meet every 2 weeks, every month or whatever, because it's so much going on in the recruiting landscape.
What does the AI stand for?
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. Look up artificial intelligence. Look up OpenAI's platform, which is Chat GPT, and you can literally tell Chat GPT, you are this is the language I use. You are a staffing agency owner. Write me an article about the newest trends in the recruiting or staffing agency landscape. and it'll write something out. Of course, what it shoots out, you want to make sure that it's accurate. You might want to add to it and edit it. But for what I have seen, honey, ChatGPT can help you with so many aspects of your business. I asked that thing, let me see if I'm gonna pull my ChatGPT up and show you what I mean. Because it's just so amazing to me.
Yeah.
It's like a Google. You ask it things like.
It's similar, but it's way more than just Googling. It's Google 10.0. Well, let me show you, because it's dope. Share screen. All right, so can you guys see my OpenAI screen? Uh-oh, I think I just minimized it. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so when I go here, I'm gonna click on try because I'm already in there. So it should pull up my old conversations that I've had with it. Because okay, so it's there. So here is one. I asked it, what countries have the best remote workers for recruiting? And this is the answer that it gave. It says there isn't a single answer to the question, blah, 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 but it told me the Philippines, India, Ukraine, Romania, and Bulgaria. Let me tell you why, if you're going to hire a virtual assistant, you should probably pick the Philippines. You can pick whatever you want. But the reason why I go for the Philippines is because when you call your credit card company and you get somebody from India, you probably complain that you can't understand them. In the Philippines, English is, I think, the second national language for them. So they speak perfect English. They know, they're very intelligent. Not to say that anyone that speaks any other language is not, but communication is a huge thing. And especially if you're going to have them working in your business, you don't want to raise a red flag to your candidates or your clients. If that person needs to make an outreach call, you don't want to let it be known that you are working with offshore oftentimes. Like, you want that person to sound and act as much like they're on US soil as possible. Here's another question. I told ChatGPT to write me the job description for going on, what was it, Fiverr and a couple of other sites. Write the job description that I needed to hire somebody for my staffing agency. So I told it, you are a staffing agency. Write a Fiverr brief to hire a recruiter. Because one of the tricks with OpenAI and with ChatGPT, you can ask it a question, but it also helps if you tell it who it is, like, who are you? And that kind of sets the tone for the way that it's going to write. So if you tell ChatGPT, you are a software engineer, write me a code for an ice cream delivery service. It will write what you told it to write, but from the standpoint and mindset of a software engineer or whatever you tell it to be. Let me see if I can find another one. I told it to, I told it to write our meeting outline, create an outline for a meeting on recruiting, and it did it. I didn't use this particular one. I used another one. But you can literally ask it to do anything. Here's the agenda. Create an agenda for a 2-hour meeting about the fundamentals of running a recruiting agency. Gosh, I've made it do so many different things. Huh?
Is it free?
Completely free for now. And that's the crazy part. This is another one that I told it to do. I told it to, it will write certain contracts. For my book, I said, what is the history of staffing? It gave me staffing agency. I told it to, what is contract staffing versus direct hire? It wrote that out. these are things that, yes, you can go Google it, or you might know the answer and you can write it up yourself. But save yourself some time and you can have Chat GPT do some of this stuff. I even asked it questions about starting the business. Let's see. I was just sitting here going ham Sunday, just asking it all kinds of, it came up with a marketing plan. I told it to do like what's called a pro forma balance sheet. So if you're putting together a business plan, a pro forma balance sheet is like you looking forward at your finances, because you might not have finances yet. So pro forma is looking into the future. How can you use AI to improve your business? And that wrote that for me. And I made it into like a TikTok post. So you can do sourcing, screening, interviewing. Like, it's really intuitive in that it's essentially pulling out information that's already on the internet. So yes, you can Google it, but you would have to put it together yourself. All OpenAI AI does, all Chat GPT does, it doesn't think, it doesn't know what it's writing, but it knows where to pull information from and put it in a perfectly grammatically correct format and present it to you. So it's you can't ask it things about like politics and controversial topics. It doesn't have feelings, even though that's debatable. But you can use it for a lot of things if you understand what type of platform it is and what type of questions it can answer. Like, we can literally sit here all day and play on Chat GPT. It's really dope.
Are those two separate things, the Chat GPT and the OpenAI?
OpenAI hosts, they're the, let me show you, they're the owners of Chat GPT. So you go and you sign up at openai.com, and Chat GPT is a feature of OpenAI's platform. Let me share it real quick. So when you sign up, you're gonna go here, openai.com, and then introducing Chat GPT research release. It's like an app. Chat GPT is the app hosted by OpenAI. So try it, and then it logs you into my Chat GPT.
Okay.
Like you're just sitting there chatting with a robot, essentially, a very smart robot.
Okay.
Let me exit out of that. And I'm just gonna look at the agenda. Like I said, we're probably not gonna get to everything, and I don't want to hold everybody too long, but I want to see if there's any final touch points that we can address during this one, and then we'll have something else in the future. But we didn't really get deep into like client relations. We talked a little bit about the legal considerations. We talked a little bit about marketing. So I think where we'll pick up next time is more so talking about client relations, because I did mention that you don't have a business until you have a client. Like that is the crux of your business. So I think we need to do a whole session on just client sourcing. And then once you get the client, how do you get the candidates ready to send to the client? So I think that's where we will pick up once we do have the next meeting. So at this time, I just want to open the floor up to questions. I went through the chat. I think I tried to get as many in the chat, but if I didn't get your chat question, you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute and verbally ask your question if you would like.
Is ISO, that ISO, is that similar to JCO?
The ISO?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I've never heard of the other one. I've only heard of ISO, honestly.
Like a joint commission type certification.
Yeah, JCO does like hospital and clinical type it's accreditation board.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It would be similar, yes.
Okay.
Except for ISO mostly does different things it probably wouldn't be in the healthcare world. it would be for IT or admin, or, I mean, when you look at the government clients, there's so much that you can staff for. You could even staff for people who go in DC and set up meetings. That's all they do. So you could have people, you could be a company that sets up meetings, and you have to hire people to set up those meetings, whether that be at the White House or what have you. So there's so much on there. Even it could be staffing within military hospitals, or, and that, I mean, even in the cafeterias and things of that sort. So it just depends on what avenue you want to go in, and that, you would have to figure out whether you're going to be open to government, private sector, and nonprofit, whether you're just going to do nonprofit or you're going to just do private. But I would say you probably want to open yourself up to as much as you can. But that's like after you're getting used to really recruiting and like the expertise that you have, you want to get those people first and then venture out.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure too, that since we're on this first meeting, just to tie everything in, like, what does the day in the life of a staffing agency look like from the recruiter aspect? So I would say start your morning, 8, 9 o'clock. Actually, honestly, if you could start your morning earlier, checking emails and things of that nature, that would be great. Because one thing about this business, there's always something that you can be doing on the administrative side. There's always email to send, always something to do, but those things don't always translate into $1. So a business, you got to be turning some dollars. So make sure that you organize your day so that you're spending a significant part of your day doing the revenue generating things. That's why we're looking into hiring someone to be more on the administrative side with some of the sourcing and the administrative email type tasks, because these are the 3 things that generate money in your agency: client relationships and sourcing, like having clients, your candidates. And really, it's those 2. Like, if you're not billing for a placement, you haven't made any money. You can make all the Instagram flyers that you want. You can make all of the job postings that you want. You can send all of the emails that you want. Until those things translate into a placement, you have not really met your metrics and KPIs for your business. So you need to constantly be thinking about what are the metrics in your company that generate revenue, so that not only do you hold yourself to that every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, you need to be on the phones, setting up interviews or taking an interview, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, making client calls. Even if you already have that client secured, you're still going to be checking in with them to see what their needs are, what they're, satisfied with, what they're not satisfied with. So every day, like your day in the life as a staffing agency owner, is going to have a good mix of client relations, candidate relations. Do not let yourself, because I'm guilty of this, do not let yourself get bogged down into the administrative parts of it, because that doesn't always translate into money. Once you have your clients and your candidates, you need to spend the first part of your morning determining where the billing is happening. That is your money. When are these candidates starting these positions? That gives you an idea of when you're going to be sending your first invoice. Day 1, when that person starts, whether they're PRN contract or direct placement, that's the day you're going to send your invoice to your client. So those are the things that you need to be thinking about every day. What things in your business can you be working on that's going to generate some revenue? And I'm sorry, I get caught up in this. It's not doing a social media post. Marketing is great, but you got to get so good in your marketing where I want the majority of my marketing to be going out to my pipeline and to my existing email list. I don't feel that it's conducive for me as the CEO of my business to always be the one posting the LinkedIn messages or the Instagram graphics and all those things. So if there comes a time where you can find ways to do that faster or for cheaper to get somebody else to outsource that, there's a saying, spend 80% of your time on the 20%, the 80-20 rule. Spend 80% of your time on the 20% of things that matter. So with your staffing business, I want you to spend 80% of your time on the 20% of things that result in billing. Billing, what's your billing looking like? What them invoices, what do they look like? Without that, you ain't in business yet. And most of us don't have the luxury of having investors or a certain amount of money set aside to just do those production type tasks. Now we got to be trying to generate revenue from Q1. And matter of fact, I think that's what Daniela, let me go back, sorry. The questions. Oh, shoot, y'all had a lot of questions in the chat. Wait a minute now. I thought I saw one or two. Let's start with Quan. He said subcontracting. I think that was back when we were talking about getting on the approved vendor list for your clients. That is what you want to aim for. So yes, if you can do some subcontracting, go for it. Don't think that you always have to be the top dog in a situation. Being a part of something, a piece of something, is better than being a whole part of nothing. Meaning that if you go on as a one-person show or one agency show and you're having a hard time getting clients, stop thinking that you can only do it as one agency and start partnering with other agencies where you can and sharing some of that work.
That also gives you leverage for past performance.
Yes.
That gives you leverage for past performance to present to that client. Hey, I was a subcontract on this. This is how it went. And that past performance, if you did great, then that's something that you can present to that client. And that gives you more credibility that, hey, they can do this without being a subcontract.
And that's a good point that Erica just made. When you're going, one of your selling points to your clients is going to be, what companies similar to them have you worked with in the past, or are you working with now? Because I don't know, if I'm trying to place a geotechnical engineer, so the company that I'm applying, having people apply for, is one type of engineering firm. I learned, because I didn't know very much about that line of business. There are other similar agencies. So what I'm going to do is, in addition to placing those roles that this particular firm needs, I'm gonna be reaching out to similar firms and saying, hey, I've worked with XYZ firm and I've placed this person and that person, and you're in a similar industry, or you're a competitor or whatever. So I'm calling to see what your needs are and if there's anything that I can help you with based off of using the leverage of having worked with their competitors. That's a big one. Do you know of any courses that are virtual for proposal writing for government contractors?
I do.
Go ahead.
That's a bit of, so the SBA that's in your area, they will have free classes that you can take that will show you and teach you how to write a proposal. Even with that, it's still very hard to write a proposal, but they will give you the fundamentals to write a proposal. I would say on your first proposal to actually find someone who writes proposals for the government, hire them to do this one proposal so they can give you what needs to be done with your logos and the way that you want it structured. After that, then you can just follow that as a template and add the new information going forward.
Good point.
So, and I mean, I'm in the DC area, so we have proposal writers everywhere. There's companies that only hire people to do proposals. That's it. But those people also do consulting and that kind of thing. So they will help you write that proposal. for a fee, and you could use that, and they'll do a template for you, and you can follow that template to kind of put in contracts. And there's a few bidding things that you're going to want to have to go into. I mean, it gets a lot on the government side, so we'd probably have to have a separate conversation. But just starting out, I would say go to those free proposal. Actually, I have them in my email. I can see if I can find some. And it's literally like you get on a Zoom. They have a trainer there. You can get a SBA mentor that will mentor you. So I would say utilize those. You can even get an SBA loan if you need it. But that first proposal, I would say get a proposal writer, let them do the whole template, and then you follow after that.
Good deal. A few of you, Cassandra, you asked how long does it take to get the certifications, and Sherry said, what are the certifications? So I'm just gonna screen share real quick and show you one for the city of Orlando. You have the city and state certifications wherever you are. So I'm gonna just show you as far as how long it takes. It depends on how long it takes you to get this information that they're asking you for. So let me show you how extensive or not this is, because I'm in the process of doing it right now, and I'm actually looking for somebody to just do it for me. Like this is not something that I feel I want to be doing. So this is my Orlando application. They send me an alert. I started it December 5th, and I have until March 19th says to get this thing done. All right. So what is it asking me for? View your application. Let's go into it. Can you see that there? It should say MWBE system. Okay. Yes. So you have minority-owned certifications, woman-owned certifications, just different certifications in your locale and in your state. So this is the MWBE one. Shoot, I don't have my access written down here, but it's going to ask you for your business articles of incorporation. It asks you for financials. So it might ask for a certain amount of bank statements, as well as a financial statement that usually you would get from a CPA putting it together. It's going to ask you for different documentation related to your business and your business's history. So when it comes to how long does that take, it takes however long it takes you to get that information in that they're asking for. Mm-hmm. But every city has a different process. Most of it is done online. There's different statements that you have to write. So you may want to find somebody that works on those certifications. There are people that they'll say, okay, pay me, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500, and I will handle that for you. So if it's not something that you feel that you want to be bothered with, or that you can be bothered with, you can definitely get somebody to help you with your certifications. Let's see. What was the other question? My man home, y'all. I gotta go. But hold on. Okay, so Erica left the link for SBA there. So make note of that. In addition to getting the playback for this, I'm gonna get ChatGPT to write us up a good like synopsis of everything that was here. So from the chat and everything, I'm gonna make sure we have a good little write-up to have everything in one place. What does the presentation consist of with the client? That's a good one. Erica, do you have time real quick to jump into that?
Okay, so the present to the client is going to be, so I know some of you guys weren't here during the first half, but those questions that we fielded for, that is going to be everything that's presented. So you're going to make your presentation to the client with those answers that you got from the candidate. So that's why when it says like, what are your 3, accomplishments and that kind of thing, you want to do a write-up. You're going to do a write-up presenting this candidate. So if they have to have certifications, you need to put that in there. How many years of experience? Another thing legally we want to get into just real quick, age discrimination. You want to leave out any age, anything out of it. But let me tell you how they get around that. They'll say that they're looking for a early college grad. So that means that they want someone that is coming in straight from college, 1 to 2 years experience. They'll say they want a seasoned candidate. That means somebody who's been working in the industry at least 15 years and on. And so sometimes to kind of watch that, when it says they graduate college, you want to omit that. You just want to say they went to college, they have their degree. This says 1989. You don't want to put that. They're like, oh, this person, is older. Technically, you're not supposed to do that. HR speaking, client speaking, they still do it, and you have to educate the client as well. That's another thing, is educating the client on what they can say and what they can't say, because sometimes they will do that. And the thing you don't want is that candidate having a lawsuit, because it happens, and it has happened. So you want to educate your client on that as well. So when you're presenting them, you're going to say, hey, I'm not going to release that information on whatever age or sex they are, because there's a lot of clients who come in who need to fill a gap. They don't have any women in their company. And they're like, well, we need a woman to do this, this, and this. They're like, whoa, I can't do that, because you can't discriminate against men that are coming in as well. So when you're doing your present, you want to present that person in the best light. So where they got their college degree from, their certifications, at least 3 accomplishments, and their skills. Are they, so like if they had to know Excel, just as an example, because I was on the finance side too. So Excel is a big thing. Are they expert, intermediate, beginner? You want to get all of those things, because you're presenting the candidate in the best light to the client. And so the more information that you gather that makes this person look great, the better. And that's also going to come with talking from the candidate and them giving you more information so that you can present them. So it's really just a present of the candidate and their high qualities to sell and market them. And
we'll put an example too on the drive, because is it like a PowerPoint or a sheet or what?
No, it's literally like so you can even use that questionnaire.
Okay. You
can use that and then just write up, hey, if you need to switch anything, and they can see, okay, this person is, they can see, okay. The only thing you want to omit is the salary. You don't want them to know the salary. Because
you don't want the client to know the salary?
You don't want the client to know the salary yet, because if they say they're in a range and they see that this person is under range, and then it goes into this person is, has been hired, and then they come back and they want to negotiate the salary, the client's like, well, that's what they asked for, so that's what I'm going to give them.
Okay. So
you kind of want to omit that just a bit and say they're in the salary range that you're asking.
Okay.
Yeah. And even if they're a great candidate, and I mean like nobody's going to meet 100%, but they meet 80 to 70% of what the client needs, you can go ahead and say, hey, this is a really great candidate. I know you're here. Is there a way that we can get this candidate to here, and then offer that to your candidate? Because you literally want to take care of your candidate, because if you take care of your candidate, that candidate is going to take care of you while they're on that contract and while they're in that first 30, 60, or 90 days.
Okay.
So that's just basically the present, is just giving them all the information that you asked in that first questionnaire, writing it up and presenting it to them. It could be on a Word. It's not like, when you talk and you can send it over to the hiring manager. And sometimes the hiring managers that they have for the client are unrealistic. So you're also going to have to educate the client, and you're going to have to educate the candidate sometimes. Because I'm tell you what, if it's a younger person, sometimes they come in like, oh yeah, I'm trying to make 90K. Like, you don't even have any experience. You're not making 90K. You know, you have to educate them. Like, you're just starting out. We have to be realistic so that we can get you in and build experience.
Right.
And then on the client side, they're like, well, I don't feel like we should be able to give them that. I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to, because this is what I'm seeing in the market now. So if you want to reach what's going on in the market and have good candidates, I need you to put the salary here. So sometimes you have to talk with them, both of them, to educate them both. Just like you said, where there's people that are like, I don't want to do hybrid, I only want to do remote and that kind of thing, or you know. And I'm like, right now there's not that much remote. It's going to be hybrid, if anything.
Yep.
So
you're going into the office, ma'am or sir, because you will have people come to you on the candidate side and say, well, I'm looking for remote positions. I'm that way. I tell these, be just honest. I don't take contracts if they're not remote, but for what I do clinically, on the PBM side, most of our positions are remote. So that's on trend with that particular market. But I'm not gonna say that for my clinical pharmacist type roles. Like I know that I'm gonna have to go on site, at least part-time during the week. So make sure that both the client and the candidate is realistic in their expectations. Sometimes the client will say, I don't know, they're hiring for a director of nursing. They want that person to be a RN, an ARNP, or this or that. They want all these certifications and things. And it's like, listen, look, number one, you're not paying enough to require all of this of a person. Number two, nobody has all of that. They want people to have 17 different state licenses. And it's like, listen, make sure they have the one that they need to work in your state first.
Yeah.
And then if you want them to have all this other stuff, you pay for that. Okay. Because you're not going to find somebody that has so many multi-state licenses some of the time without the client having to pay for it.
And it may not even require all of that.
Right. And so
sometimes they're unrealistic though. They are.
You have to make sure, like,
you have to educate them.
That's just part of your relationship building, is forming a relationship with that client so that you can get clear about their needs from jump, so that y'all have a good working relationship going forward, so that you can be comfortable to tell them, now look, remember last time you asked for this, and that person, we couldn't find them or they didn't work out. But I have this candidate, like Erica said, she has 80% of what you need, and it's the most important points. I think you should take a chance on this person. Let's see what else is in the chat. Let me go up.
Yes,
okay.
they do.
You can see the chat?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, okay, good. Because I'm like,
yeah, the clients are outlandish as well. Yeah. So again, you can't be scared to speak up, because if you're out in the field, then you know what the going rate is. You know what the market price is. And then you can also present that to them too. Say, hey, I've interviewed 10 people, and this is what everybody's asking for, the same thing. And you're not offering that. So you're basically not going to get you're not going to get a candidate for that. And sometimes they don't bend and you can't get a candidate for them. That's just the way it is.
And that happens. Don't beat yourself up over it, because you're not going to close every candidate, and you're not going to be a good fit as an agency for every client either. Just is what it is. That's why you're always going to be sourcing, always going to be marketing. Let's see. Mentioned already, how much do you think is a good amount to start with bootstrapping your? Okay. That's a good question. It depends on how big or small you want to go. Like I said, I don't recommend you jumping out there getting the newest ATS system, applicant tracking system. I recommend that you learn to use Excel spreadsheets to your benefit. I don't recommend you going necessarily and getting LinkedIn Recruiter. Start out with maybe LinkedIn, one of the LinkedIn premium accounts, and do your sourcing on a free level by sending requests to people, waiting for them to accept them, and then hopping in their inbox. Because I'm gonna tell you too, paying for the subscription services that give you the in-mail options, the in-mails they don't always answer those either. You get credit back for the in-mails that didn't get answered or that got rejected, because they have to say that they choose to receive your message. So in-mail can be hit or miss. You don't always need that. So I would say optimize all of your free memberships, options, and demos. So if I had to go with a ballpark amount, I feel, and this is just my opinion, I feel like you can start a staffing agency on the direct placement side with little to no money. That's direct placement, because remember, your money is coming from the client. The client is paying you to place somebody. So all you're paying for is like your laptop and your technology, your internet, and the things that you need to do your sourcing. On the PRN side, that costs a lot more money, especially if you can't get factoring right away. Invoice factoring has to do with the client. Even on the trucking side, logistics side, they want to know who your clients are, who are your customers, and they assign a credit rating to that customer to determine whether or not you approve for factoring. It's not so much your company profile that they're looking at. They're looking to see who are your clients, and would we be willing to take a risk to make payroll for you and wait on that client to pay me back, because that's what the factoring companies are. So if you're doing PRN staffing, whatever your payroll costs you to have that one nurse or those 10 nurses or those 100 nurses, that is your cost. So if you're doing RN staffing, you know how much those RNs are going for on a weekly basis. And that is what you will be paying out to make sure that you're making payroll. And then you will thus be waiting to be reimbursed through the client. Payroll factoring will allow you to get that money kind of upfront, because they'll go and they'll pay you or pay your candidates for you, and then they will wait to be reimbursed from the client. So PRN staffing is the one that's going to cost you the more money to do. And I think that's the end of our question. So we did good. We came in under 9:30. Again, we will be having a meeting in the future. This meeting is going to go on replay. I should be able to send that out to y'all tomorrow for the replay. I don't know when I'm going to post it on YouTube. But if you guys have any questions or anything, y'all have my email information. You have Erica's contact information. She is Ari the recruiter, Ari_the_recruiter on Instagram. Reach out to her. Don't bombard her, because I need her. She has her own career. Plus, she has to help me clear this VMS system. So please don't be taking up too much of her time, because we have so much work to do. But within reason, I'm here to answer questions. And if it's something extensive, I have a consultation link as well. So
I have one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, as far as the PRN staffing, when you was talking about the invoices, how you send the client an invoice like when they start. So I mean, what would that invoice consist of when they haven't even like worked that week, or because they choose their schedules, you know what I mean?
Well, for PRN, that's worked out between you, but for direct placement, that's something that's already worked out in your contracting. Okay. But I'm trying to think, because they have something called locums. I don't know if they do it with nursing, but with our locums physicians, it'll say in the contract, I wish I could show you guys one, but it would be a violation because it has the client's information on there. but I'll try to do a cutout and give you the example. But with those PRN roles, it'll tell you how much, like, okay, $180 per shift. It'll say it on your contract what that client is interested in paying. So you know at minimum how much one unit is, like that $180 for
1 day.
Really, with the positions, it's $180, I want to say, or something like that, per evaluation that they do or whatever it is. So it's all of that stuff will be written out between you and the contract with your client. And then that is what you will base your factoring off of. And I'm not actually entirely sure that you can get factoring on that type of a contract. Your invoice factoring is more so oftentimes based off of like a 40-hour work week with a set rate. So you might have to come up with some other creative financing for your locums type roles, is what you're describing.
Okay, because like I said, you don't know what they may pick up, to work for that particular week.
Yeah, but even then it's still ironed out. Like if they pick up something, if they don't pick up nothing, it's zero. But if they pick up one shift, there still should be a rate at minimum. And what happens is when to get the factoring, you're sending in the invoices. So that's why I say if it's something that's so random, you just may not qualify for factoring for that. Like that might be that would be something that your business just would have to have the money or the credit open to front. You just might not qualify for factoring for that.
Because they can just choose how many hours they want to work for that, for any particular week.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And Danny was saying that locum is only for physicians, PAs, and ARMPs. Okay. Yeah. Because we have a lot of locums roles in our VMS to do. So that wouldn't necessarily be for the RNs then.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I come across anything to add to that I will definitely share it. But as far as I know, with the factoring, there has to be some consistency there. And each factoring company is different. Like you may have some that are accustomed to dealing with that type of situation. So you have to reach out to the different factoring companies and find out if they offer some type of payment model or program that accommodates more of a variable schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I'll get back to you guys and try to come up with the list of factoring companies, even if it's just one or two that I know for a fact that I utilize and that people that I know utilize. You don't have to always have a list and go down. I like to give people options, but sometimes there's only one or two options for things.
Can I email you later on what we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. Y'all can email me. Like I said, y'all can email me about anything. If it's something that I can answer quick, I absolutely will. And if it's something that's more detailed, I'll say, hey, this is a consult. But don't feel, you can email me about anything at any time.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So thank you guys. Thank you all so much for being on. I do have to go do a site visit tomorrow. So I will say that this will be in your inboxes around 7 p.m. tomorrow, the same way I try to send things on like a schedule. So I'll send out an email with the replay by 7 p.m. tomorrow. If I can get it earlier, I absolutely will. But send questions and whatever you need, I'm here as a resource for you.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. Well, good night, you guys, and thank y'all for joining us. Thank you, Erica.
Yeah, so much. This was so wonderful.
Thank you. And look, I look forward to having more sessions because there's so much information out there. It's not even about like people charging fees to do the meetings and this helps me learn. Like I learned so much tonight from Erica. So once a month, I'm gonna try to do a meeting. So, all right, you guys. Talk to y'all later. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.